Uh, so regarding Iran, we should be focused on North Korea, but regarding Iran, the agreement that five or six, was it six with Iran? It's not just an agreement between the United States and Iran. There are five other countries. Who were they? The UK, Russia. Damn it. Will you look that up for me, Kathy, real quick? Signatories to the Iran nuke deal. Trump wants to rip up that deal. He just wants to destroy it. And you got to ask yourself, why? Well, don't forget his base. Those little rat fuckers, those little right-wing Nazis and Klansmen who have no idea about international relations. They just know, Iranians, we don't want no Iran. No, oh, no, shit, no. Who worked that out? Oh, Obama did? Get rid of it.
You want me to say it on the air?
Who are they? Russia, China, U.S.,
The permanent members of the United Nations, Security Council in Germany and the European Union.
Okay, those were the signatories.
So U.S., UK, Russia, France, China, Germany, and the European Union.
Okay, the permanent members of the Security Council plus the European Union. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So the five signatories, actually six, seven if you count Iran. So Trump is acting as though the United States alone had the deal with Iran, which is not the case at all. And if Trump gets caught on his own little pee-pee and decides he's got to act like a real man and tears up this agreement, so to speak, what's that going to say to the rest of the world? Very simply, don't trust him. Don't trust the United States. They'll make a deal. This is like what we used to say about the Soviet Union. You can't trust the Soviet Union because they'll make deals and they ignore them. Well, of course, we were doing the same thing at the same time, but both the Soviet Union and the United States tried to keep it secret from their allies. Yeah, we're a bunch of assholes, but we don't want you to know about it because we're involved in the Cold War. So if Trump does decide to blow up the Iran nuclear deal agreement, what does that say to the other members of the UN Security Council and the other signatories to this agreement? Very simply says United States is a liar. It's a liar. Great. And the deal, by the way, prevents Iran from getting a nuclear weapon for years. And there's no power on earth short of ending the country with carpet bombing. There's no power on earth that can prevent a nation from getting nuclear weapons. I mean, nuclear weapons have been on this planet for 70 years. And the countries that arguably are responsible over the past 300-400 years for the most imperialism, death, destruction, they're the countries that have the nuclear weapons. So other countries know, well, if they want to come over here and bomb me, how am I going to protect myself? I know, I'll develop nuclear weapons so that the mutual assured destruction thing will apply between us and the United States like it applied between the United States and the Soviet Union, and then we'll be safe. You see how it works? It's so simple. That's how it works. So this deal prevents Iran from openly developing nuclear weapons for about a decade. Then what? Then they can reactivate their nuclear weapons program, I guess. But there's no way, the reason these deals are set like that, well, 10 years, that Obama and Obama's State Department and the other signatories, the whole idea in a deal like that is we'll buy some time. We can't stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons unless we decide the United States and Israel to attack, which would cause an awful lot of shit from Russia and China. But who cares, right? So, since we can't stop a country from developing nuclear weapons if they have the expertise and the or the resources to do so, and the engineering skills and the math skills, we can't stop them. So we buy time, which is what the Obama administration is trying to do. Okay, we got 10 years. Now, during this time, surely to God, we can sit down with the Iranians, and if they want to develop nuclear energy to run their country, let's work on that. But let's show them that even though we overthrew their government and put a dictator who murdered thousands of their fellow countrymen, even though we did that, and even though we have a psychopath leading the country, you know, as I try to make this argument, it just falls apart. The Iranians don't want to talk to us. Why would they? But that was Obama's hope. Of course, I don't think Obama, well, I don't have to not think this. I know Obama never thought that a moronic fuckhead like Trump would ever be president. Jesus. Now, the world backs that nuclear deal with Iran. Everybody backs it. Russia, China, Europe, all helping to enforce it by monitoring all the conditions of that agreement. The only signatory to that agreement, the only state that signed it, that is led by a madman is the United States. And the rest of the world is figuring this out. I wonder when the rest of the world is going to get together at a secret meeting and they're going to say, you know, the United States has got to be stopped. That's a thought, isn't it? Wow. What would that look like? Not very good. The Guardian goes on, if an Iran-style nuclear deal had been on the table at any point with North Korea, the United States would have jumped at the opportunity. And in fact, we came very close to making a deal called the Agreed Framework with North Korea work in the 1990s during the impeached Bill Clinton era, right? Tearing up the Iran deal would be the strategic equivalent of shooting oneself in the foot or some other part of the anatomy. But that's exactly what Trump seems to want. In his UN speech, Trump placed the Iran nuclear deal in his sights. He said, quote, the Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into. This ignorant son of a bitch doesn't even realize there were 5 other countries that signed it. He doesn't know that because he's an ignorant savage and nobody can tell him anything. He went on to say, frankly, that deal is an embarrassment to the United States, and I don't think you've heard the last of it. Believe me. End quote. So it appears that Trump is really, truly going to unilaterally rip up the deal, and his little butt girl who sits in the seat of the UN representative, Nikki Haley, she says the same shit. She's as stupid and fucking ignorant as he is. The only difference between her and him is she can put together a coherent sentence. Now, by coherent, I don't mean in substance, I mean in form. She can take words, she can have a subject, a verb, and an object. Trump can't do that. Nikki Haley can speak in complete paragraphs. Trump can't do that. There's no fucking way he could do that. But other than that, well, they're in perfect sync. Nikki Haley, Trump's little butt girl at the UN. And Donald Trump. Apparently Nikki Haley's big hero. Jesus Christ. It's hard to overstate the potential disaster of destroying the Iran deal. This is back to The Guardian. Iran would be incentivized to race to get a nuclear weapon. The partners that helped make the Iran deal happen, Europe, China, Russia, would leave the United States behind and continue doing business with Iran, making impossible any renewal of international pressure. And if Iran actually acquired a nuclear weapon, it could embolden Iran to escalate its regional provocations. All of this would result in more confrontation with the United States and greater chances of war. If Iran actually acquired a nuclear weapon, it could embolden Iran to escalate its regional provocations. Do you know what would stop Iran's regional provocations? First of all, for the United States, stop supplying Israel and Saudi Arabia with massive weapons of massive destruction. Iran is an outlier. Iran is a Shia state. Saudi Arabia is Sunni. Now, to us stupid Americans, we don't, sometimes we say, well, Shia and Sunni is the same as Catholic and Protestant. Bullshit. It's nowhere near comparable. Sunni and Shia, especially the Sunnis, they don't like the Shia because the Shia, you know, they're riffraff. And they get in the way of the Prophet's teachings. So the Sunnis just want to eliminate all the Shia. Now, we are so stupid in this country. I remember George W. Bush saying, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect, well, a Muslim is a Muslim, so we're going to go ahead and invade Iraq. Even though there were experts said, you can't do that, because if you do, the country will be ripped to pieces because of secular violence. Well, take a look at Iraq now. So the best way to curtail the development of Iran as a regional power and a power involved in regional provocations, that's how The Guardian puts it, provocations. I think Iran has been provoked, frankly. I mean, I can't think of another country over there, although I'm sure there's probably 1 or 6, whose government we overthrew and put a dictator in. What about United States provocations? Does that mean anything? Oh, well, Mike, that was 50 years ago. So what? We're the ones, Americans, who have no memory of anything. We don't remember shit. Primarily because we were never taught it. But you have a country that can celebrate 2,000 or 3,000 years of history. You think they don't remember what happened 50 years ago? Are you fucking crazy? Of course they remember. So why should they trust the United States? Here's the way to end what is identified by the West as Iran's provocative behavior. United States, stop providing massive weapons of death to Saudi Arabia and to Israel. And the United States take a firm stand with these Israeli Nazis that we are no longer going to accept the idea of genocide against the Palestinians, which is what is the objective of the Israeli government. Kill them all. The fuckers won't leave, so we have to kill them. Now, if the United States ever stop backing the Israeli and the Saudi military with billions of dollars of weaponry, and you know that's never going to happen. But if we were to do that, and at the same time, if we were to say to the Israelis, you know, this fucking game is over. Either treat the Palestinians as equal because you share the same goddamn landmass, or we're boogieing out and you can deal with the Arab world as you can. Well, which might not be a particularly good idea because the Israelis have nuclear weapons too. Although I can't see them using nuclear weapons in such a crowded little area as the Middle East. I mean, Syria butts up against Israel. Jordan butts up against Israel. Sinai, I believe that's Egyptian now, butts up against Israel. Eh? So how could you nuke any city in any of those countries without wiping out, through radiation poisoning, your own population? Now, the Israelis may be aggressors and Nazis of their own type, but they're not stupid. Even Netanyahu is not stupid. He's just a war hawk psycho, just like Trump. Ever look at the pictures of Trump and Netanyahu together since Trump has been president? And they both have these vampire-like grins on their faces while they're shaking hands. Two evil fuckers. I mean, really evil. Really evil. But anyway, I digress. If you want to convince Iran that it's time we all became buddies, it would be fairly simple to do that. If you wanted to convince North Korea that it's time to open up your country, Kim, let's put in some fast food franchises and a water park, and we'll open up some factories and shit, and we'll do the typical American thing. And your people won't get rich because we're capitalists. Nobody gets rich but the 1/10 of 1% over here. But they'll have jobs and they'll be able to buy food, and we will quietly support your dictatorial regime. But that's the way to do it, Kim. Not this bullshit about, Honky Cat and Rocket Man. Let's just... There are always ways to handle these situations short of violence.